Turn the mic on. Can everybody hear me? I assume you can. There's a few people I think in the stream, but welcome to the live launch of the Gravelton events calendar for next year. Not going to lie, a bit nervous. I'm not a YouTuber, but I thought it'd be a unique way of launching the calendar. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So I've got some notes, I've got an agenda. So first of all, I'm going to give you a bit of background for all the newbies that might be either on the stream or watch this retrospectively. Give you a bit of background about who I am, where Gravelton events came from. Won't take long, I'm not going to take too much of your time. A couple of thank yous, and then we'll get straight into the calendar. And on the calendar we've got numbers, we've got 12 events, 23 routes, 2 of which are the big goat routes. And for the first time we've got 3 months with 2 events in them, so it's a bumper calendar next year, and the best one I have to say that we've come up with. So first of all, who am I? I'm Paul. I live in Bromsgrove, which is smack in between Birmingham and Worcester. Been cycling for donkey's years, I'm in my 50s. Raced, been in clubs, all that sort of stuff. Gravelton events came about in, I think, November 2022. Scratching around for gravel events to ride and decided to put my own on, and that was a 100-mile gravel ride around the city of Birmingham. And because it was 100 miles, as in a ton, I called it, and it was gravel, called it the Gravelton, and that's where the name came from. So there you know. So that's the history of it, and then that exploded into a whole series of events and calendars, and grown ever since. It was a bit slow to sort of gain a bit of traction and get a bit of notoriety, but the turning point I think was last year at the last event of the year at the National Forest Explorer. And we had a really big turnout, and then from then things have just kicked on. So for example, I had about 200 or 300 followers on my Facebook page, and that's now at 1.3 or 1,300 now, so thank you to all those people that have subscribed. So that's great. I can't do this without some people that help me. Firstly, I'd like to thank my girlfriend Sally for putting up with me. I disappear every once a month doing these events, and occasionally on recce's and rides and stuff, so I couldn't do it without her support. But also some of the guys that have come up with the routes. So first of all, you got Chris. Chris lives up in the National Forest. He's a route master that got in touch after riding the Gravelton and puts on the National Forest Explorer route, which was the one that we did a couple of weeks ago, and the Spring Fling, which are just great. I mean, I don't know the area, but it is a superb area to ride a gravel bike, and Chris is just an encyclopedia of byways and trails around there. So this is a shout out to you, Chris. Thanks ever so much, mate, for all the effort that you put in there. And secondly, Ed is a new sort of route master, as I call them, for 2025. He came up with the Canet Chaser. It was on my radar to do, but he made life a lot easier by coming up with that route, which I tweaked, which features again, which you'll see in the calendar, and also the Brampton Valley Bash, which regrettably I was ill that weekend, and it was the only one I haven't ridden this year. So that's back on the calendar. So thank you to you too, Ed, for all your efforts with that. There is another guy that's come on board with another route, which I'll explain. I'm not going to say who, where or what at the moment, but I'll jump into that shortly. And yeah, so thank you to all those guys. It's been a great season. We're kicking on. I'm really excited about 1 or 2 things which I'll explain in the calendar in a moment. So I'm going to run through the calendar on the Komoot collection, and then I'm going to be flicking around on the screen, diving into the maps. I can see there's a couple of people that have sort of said hi, so hello to everybody that has joined me this evening. If you've got any questions, I'll occasionally look up and I'll try and answer them if you've got any. But we've got quite a bit to get through, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. After this feed, I will put all of the routes live, but there's quite a bit to do. So I've got all of the files to make available on the folder, the GPS folder. I've got all of the Facebook events to do. I've got the calendar itself on the website. I've got the page to do on the website for Gravelton events. So there's quite a bit to do, and it's not all going to get done this evening, but I'll do as much as I can this evening, and anything that I do I will post on the Facebook page so that you know that it's available. What I will say is the calendar should be live on the website tonight, and the files hopefully should be available for you to download so that you can digest the routes yourself. So let's kick on, let's crack on. Let me just change my page to my presentation page. Bear me a second. Right, so all of the events go into Commute Calendar. This is not live at the moment. I'll make this public after this sort of explanation of what we've got. This is just a list. I'm going to go through this list, and then I will be bringing up a sort of a map on another tab on my browser, because it's a lot easier to zoom in and out. Commute's great, but the mapping is shit. It's really difficult to zoom in and out quite quickly and sort of switch around. So I'm going to use this as the main list and then jump into the maps separately. So without further ado, let me give you an update on the first event for 2026. You won't be surprised that it's one in the National Forest, one of Chris's routes. This was the first one that I rode for the first time actually this year. I didn't do it the year before, and I've got to say it's one of my favourite rides of the year. Absolutely superb, and I'm a big believer if it's really, really good, why change it? So we're going with the same route, unless Chris comes up with some tweak that he wants to send over. But this is a great route. If you're a newbie, this is a really good entry-level gravel ride to do, because it's just not too technical, and it just highlights all of some of the best byways and trails in the area. The date for that, bear with me, so the date for the Spring Fling is on a Saturday, and it's March the 7th, and that's deliberately to avoid Mother's Day, which is the week after, and I'm also, I think I'm on holiday around that sort of time anyway, so that's the only time I could shoehorn it in. Always in a March. It's the first one of the year, Saturday, March the 7th for the Spring Fling. On some of these routes there are short courses as well, which I'll briefly explain. The Spring Fling is only like 60, wherever it was, 60 kilometres, so no need for a short course really on that one, and it's a perfect one for anybody that's not that technical, a bit of a noob or a novice when it comes to gravel riding anyway. So great, happy with that. Let's move on to the next one. So the Peaky Finder, now this has got a tweak to it, this one, which I've changed for this year. So let me give you the date for that. So the Peaky Finder is on a Sunday, and that's on April the 19th, and that's 2 weeks after Easter. And we've got quite a bit of a change on this one. So let me jump straight into that route. So on this one, traditionally we start in Ashbourne and we go all the way up the Tisterton Trail, do a bit of a loop, follow the High Peak Trail across, and then come round Carsington Water. But I've turned it on its head this year, because traditionally Carsington Water can get really busy, so later in the day with tourists. So for the original route, or the main route riders, you'll be going out of Ashbourne to Tissington and then kicking over to Carsington Water straight away, just to get that bit done. I think it's good enough to do and worth it, but if we can get there early, it will avoid the crowds. There's a bit of a climb up onto the High Peak Trail, but we're not doing the entire route of the High Peak Trail. We're actually cutting off and crossing the Tissington Trail on some new trails, which I've never done before, and having looked at the photos on Commute, it looks really, really good, I have to say. And then it takes a sort of a road transitional bit with a bit of a punchy climbing it up to the top at Hurdlow, and then you literally got the entire Tissington Trail to finish on. So I think the downhill effectively is about 10 miles, so you've got a 10-mile downhill finish, which is quite unique in the UK. So yeah, so that's quite a big change for the Peaky Finder for 2026. I'll just bring up the short course, just give me a sec. So the short course is really straightforward. Riders literally ride out of Ashbourne, right up the Tissington Trail, and then where the route would cut across, it you just do that top loop and then come straight back down. Really straightforward and really easy for any newbies or novices or people strapped for time. So that's that one. Let's move on to the next one. Close those tabs. So the next one on the calendar is the new one. It's a new route, hashtag new route 2026. So this one is from a guy, it's based on Winchcombe down in the Cotswolds, and it's from a guy called Simon who contacted me. And we've been going backwards and forwards quite a bit, and I'm actually riding a recce of the route on Sunday. So if anybody wants to come with me on Sunday and ride this route for the kind of the first time, I suppose, it would be the first time for me anyway. It's quite punchy, I'll explain in a second, but just reach out to me, send me a message through the website, whatever, and we can do it together, that's fine. But I've called it the Winchcombe Wanderer, and it's kind of got flavours of the Broadway grinder that we did in September, October, can't remember. And it's a great little route. I'll explain why. So let me bring that up. So the Winchcombe Wanderer. So it's based on Winchcombe, and then it kind of climbs straight out the gate up onto the Cotswold Escarpment, and you'll recognise the bits of it that you did in the Broadway grinder, what we're doing in the opposite way. Camden Lane section, this bit across the top of the Cotswold Escarpment, then it does a bit of a loop back, and then it sort of heads out towards Guyton Power, and it's just sort of road trail, and sort of meanders its way all the way around. But the highlight of the route is when you get to Cleeve Common. So much like the Broadway grinder, where you climb Breedon Hill and you've got those just stunning views off the top of Breedon Hill, the reason why we've put this loop in, me and Simon, is really to give you guys the benefit of those views off Cleeve Common, looking down over Cheltenham and over the racecourse, etc. Superb. And then you've got a nice big downhill finish back to Winchcombe. So that one works out at what have we got? Just under 50 miles. Pretty punchy as well. There's quite a bit of climbing in it, but it's on some really quiet roads and trails, and I've done my best on that to sort of find the best in the area with the help of Simon, who's the guy with the local knowledge. So if you want to join me on Sunday, I'm going to ride that. Reach out and we'll do it. The short course, which I'll bring up, it's got the first bit. You're climbing up, you're doing your loop, but rather than do this big sort of loop round here, it cuts straight across, and then you just get the benefit of Cleeve Common, which I think is about 40 odd K, I think 45k, yeah, 47k. So nice and short if you're a newbie, novice, or short on time, which is the point of them. Right, to the next one. Oh, the date for that one. You want the date? The date for the Winchcombe Wanderer is Sunday, May the 17th. And that's the first one with two in the same month. So the next one, which is the Cannock Chaser, is on Saturday, May the 30th. And that's the weekend after the last bank holiday in May. So let's jump into the Cannock Chaser. So this one was one of Ed's routes. So thank you, Ed, for bringing this one up. I've got to say, I rode this in this year, and I found it really bloody hard, to be honest. It's really hard work on the chase, constantly up and down and sandy, just heavy going all day long. So with that in mind, I've tweaked it slightly. So I've dialed down the elevation, I've dialed down the distance a touch, and I've rerouted the finish a little bit, so it's not as crazy down those MTB trails. So let me jump into that for you. So that's that one. So the main difference here is the bulk of it is the same. It's just this year we went out across here out to Shrubbery Estate and cut in, and I've just basically cut that off. The rest of it remains the same. You've got this really cool bit around the bottom before you get back into the centre of the chase, but the finish is slightly different. You do go back over the road and then sort of finish the other side of the road and then just come in, rather than trying to find your way down these trails these MTB trails back into the cycle centre. So I'm quite pleased with that one. That was a really good one, but really hard in equal measure. So it's still hard, still punchy, but really you can't not have Can Chase on the calendar, in my opinion. So thank you, Ed, for the inspiration of that one. It is different to what you originally said, but you know, it's based on what you sent me, so you still get the credit for that, in my opinion. The short version of it is effectively the same. So on the short version, we've got the same as this year, and I've just basically took out the Shugborough Estate bit, cut it across. You haven't got this extended loop around the back style cop. You haven't got this loop over here towards Bednall. It doesn't do so much around the centre, and I think the distance on that one, what was that, 35k, which doesn't sound a lot, but that's a good day out on the chase. It's hard work, so I'm happy with that. So the date for that one is Saturday, May the 30th, and that's the first month with 2 events in, and then we move into June, and this is the month I'm really excited about. So all you people that have been sort of going along with the journey with the Gravelton events thing for quite a while, you'll know that earlier this year I went on a recce, spent a weekend down in the Forest of Dean to recce a couple of routes with the view of doing a weekender for next year. So what the weekender is over a weekend in June, which is Saturday June the 13th and Sunday June the 14th. They're effectively 2 Gravelton events. So there is a event called the Fod Plod, which I'll show you in a second, on a Saturday, which has a short course as well. That takes you all around the Forest of Dean and highlights the best of that to the best of what I can find for everybody. Not massive on distance. The distance is doled down just a touch, just so you're not too tired if you want to do the Sunday as well. And then what I'm really excited about is the Wye Valley Wander, as I've called it, which is the route that goes down the Wye Valley. Now that for me is one of the best routes I've ever come up with. It is just superb. I did it on a really hot day. It's hard, but it's a great day out, and the scenery is just exquisite. So that's what the weekender is all about. Now if you want to stay down for the weekend, you've got choices. You can train it down, you can camp. I'm staying for the weekend. You can stay down there, you can ride both. You could do short course, long course, short course. It's entirely up to you, but the point of it is if we can get a bit of a group down there for the weekender, then we can do a bit of something social on the Saturday night, that's all, in a pub. We can all meet up in a pub. But what I will say is, if you are going to do the weekender and you are going to stay, from my sort of searching, accommodation is quite hard to find around there. So whatever you can find, Airbnb, booking.com, jump on it and get it booked straight away. I'm booked in. I've got an Airbnb for the weekend. I'd highly recommend, if you're going to stay or want to stay, then get yourself booked in somewhere pretty quick. But let's jump into the routes. So on the Fod Plod. Now I did the Fod Plod a couple of years ago. This is a complete and utter rehash of it. So it's all based out at the Pedlar Bikeaway Centre. It's got an extended car park. It's expensive to park there, but you're paying for the facilities, and I don't begrudge paying like 10 quid a day, because it's worth it, because you've got cafe on site, bike shop on site, etc. So effectively it drops you safe on the main sort of family cycle route, and then I found, after Park End, I found this really cool trail, this bit here, really good, and then you've got one of the highlights of the route is this section here, which takes you past Mallard's Pike with the lake. Really nice. Punchy climb here in Rushbridge, and then you've got an excellent piece of trail for a really quiet wood, which you get the odd walker, you might see the odd driver parking up, but it's literally, there's nobody about. You'll drop into Little Dean, and there's a really nasty little climb here which I've included, so sorry for that, but got to get back up onto the top. And then you've got a lot of trails which take you all the way up to the top of the course, and then I've found this cool little bridleway it's a byway actually, which I think 4x4s have used in the past, but it was pretty overgrown. I don't think they use it anymore, but that is really good. Bit of a climb back up to Puddlebrook, and then you drop down through Drybrook into Harrow Hill, and then back into the forest itself and do a loop back round to the centre. Really good. I think it's about 60k, so it's not too heavy on climbing, it's not too heavy on the distance, so you're not too tired for the following day, unless you have too many beers like me on the night, for example. Which is probable. So that's that one. I'll quickly show you the short course for that one. So the short course for this one, pretty straightforward. So it effectively starts but does what is the final loop of the main route, and then does the sort of the middle bit of the main route without going right up to the top and doing that byway that I just mentioned. Then it just drops back in and then straight back to the cycle centre without doing the loop because you've already done it. Distance on that one, we've got about 50k, perfect. So that's all good. And then the following day, which is the intention for doing the Wye Valley one. Honestly, I absolutely love this course. Let me close these tabs and go and get that one for you. So the Wye Valley Wander. So this one is based out of the same pedal bikeway centre, and it follows the forest roads of where the bike trail centre is effectively, and then it jumps across over towards Simmons Yat. This loop here is just dreamy. The only problem is when you get back on the road and you're dropping down the single track road, you've got idiots with 4x4s, bloody Chelsea tractors, trailers on a single track road trying to take their boats etc down to the river, so you've got to be a little bit careful there. But once you get down to the bottom and you're coming down on this trail that runs parallel to the river, really good. You'll get a bit of pedestrian footfall there, but honestly it's so good. And then you'll drop into the outskirts of Monmouth, you'll climb back up into the trees on a disused railway line, get to Redbrook, cross the river, and then you follow the disused railway line again, and then you've got this. It's a pretty punchy climb, to be honest. It's so good though. It's one of those climbs that keeps on giving. You think you're at the top and you turn this corner and then you're only halfway and it just keeps going on and on and on, but honestly once you get to the top it's so good. And then you've got all these trails around here, and the trails are just dead. There's no one there. Well, there wasn't anybody there when I was there, and they're really good quality. And then you drop back down to the river, follow the disused railway back up to Redbrook Cross, and then you climb and sort of ride around this headland which was completely deserted again, and then you drop back into Colford, and then you pick up this cycle route which is effectively an old railway line again, and all gravel, and it just tracks the road. It's all off-road and traffic free, so all this all the way here and all the way back to the finish is just a superb gravel trail. And that's the first part. That bit in the opposite direction there at the end is the first part of the fog plod the previous day. Absolutely superb route. I can't recommend it enough. If you can't do the weekend, do that. Honestly, it's so good. So yeah, really pleased with that one. And then the short course for that one basically cuts out the, come on, where are you? Basically cuts out going over the river. So you do most of it. So this bit here, when you got to Redbrook and we did this sort of loop round here, that's cut out. So that's your short course effectively. So you get pretty much all of it. But if you can make the effort and get over to this bit, it's really good. So that's that. So that's the weekender. If you're going to come and you want to stay the weekend, get yourself booked into some accommodation quick. And then nearer the time I'll sort of put some noises out about how many people are actually going down for the weekend and whether there's going to be any people around on the evening, and then I'll work out where we can all meet up and we'll have a beer and etc and have a laugh and talk about the day's ride and what's to come. Right, just a bit of an interlude on that before we move on to the next calendar item, is the first goat route. Now, if you don't know what a goat route is, goat, greatest of all time. These are routes that I've put together which are just monsters. There are some twisted people out there that like to ride 8, 10, 12 hours, and they like the challenge of super long rides that take all day and ridiculous amounts of elevation. So the first one, new one that I've come up with for next year, if anyone wants to have a go, and you can do it on the weekend, is effectively the two routes that I've just said joined together. So you've got the Fod Plod, and you've got the Wye Valley Wander, effectively on the same route, same day, with an extra little nasty little loop that I've put in as well. So let me just show you that one. Bear with me. So the distance on this, 133 kilometres and 2,000 metres of climbing. I've called it Roots and River. It's called Roots and River because roots as in tree roots and river as in river. I'm not very good at cool names, but that's what I've called it. It's a monster day out on the gravel bike, or you could split it into like the weekend and do it at your own pace. But it's got this. What I have added in is this nasty little loop here. So the normal route would go sort of up there. This little bit here drops down, and this climb here. Oof, if you street view that, it's nasty. Yeah, so 80 miles and 2,000 metres of climbing. So that's 8 to 10 hours of riding, I'd reckon. So definitely worthy of a goat route. Now, if you don't know what a goat route is, you can ride it. And if you can submit a request to go on the Goat Wall of Fame. So for all the goat routes that I've currently got, which there are 3 on my website, these are the people that submitted rides for those, and obviously these goat routes that I'm showing you today, they'll get added to this, and anybody that completes them gets added to the Wall of Fame for posterity. So that's the first new goat route for the year. And then now we'll move into July. So in July we've got another 2 routes. Firstly, we've got the wire we're riding. That's the one that's sort of based on my local training route, and it takes us into the Wire Forest. That remains unchanged for next year. Not a lot, because it's the best of the best around here anyway, other than tweaking the way round we go, which I'm not keen on. I actually like this way round. I actually like this because of the summit finish that we've got at Clent. So if you haven't ridden this one, you're starting at a nice little cafe in Belbourne, and you meander all your way out onto the canal, all through Kidderminster into Stourport, and then you're into the Wire Forest, and then you sort of meander all the way back on a host of byways, bridleways and trails, which are the best in the area because I live around here. And then you've got the summit finish up onto Clent Hills, and then you've got, I don't know, a 5-minute ride back down to the start. But there is parking at the top, so you're only minutes away from your car if you follow the instructions on the page, on the route page. So that one's what's the date on that one? So that's on Sunday, July the 12th. So that's unchanged on that one. And then the shorter version of that's unchanged as well. I can show you on this screen. It effectively starts here in Wolverley and does all of that route and stops in Wolverley. You just lose the start and finish, so you haven't got the summit finish on that one. So that's that one. Move on to the next one. So next one is another new route. This is in July. This is on Saturday, July the 26th. I spent a hell of a lot of time researching this one, and it does require a recce. Now, I do a lot of work up sort of Mansfield way. I've got a mate, I've stayed there a couple of times, who I work with up there, Sutton in Ashfield, Mansfield, and it's not far from Sherwood Pines. And he's always told me that his wife or girlfriend goes out on a bike and knows all the local trails. And there's, like the National Forest, Sherwood Forest in that area has got a lot of mining or ex-mining communities, so there's a lot of railways, disused railways, byways and trails, and that's what really prompted me to sort of look at that area. So I've done a lot of research and come up with effectively what I've called the Sherwood Shakedown. So let me show you that one. So this is on Saturday, July the 26th. Close some of these tabs. So it's based out of Sherwood Pines, does a loop around Sherwood Pines and then takes you down to Blidworth. And this is where I kind of work, that's where I work over here actually. So it's not far away. And then it meanders all the way back up north into Sherwood Forest. I've just looked at so many maps for this one, and then does a loop round and then brings you back down. On paper, or on maps, looks absolutely superb. I use a whole series of resources: OS Maps, Strava, Heat Maps, Street View, etc., etc. The little pictures that people put on for trails on Canute. On paper, it looks superb, but it does, or is subject to a recce. So at some point in the early part of the new year, I will recce that, and I'll put that out there. So if anyone wants to join me on that one, they're welcome to join me on that one as well. But that one's coming in at just over 50 miles. Not mental on the amount of climbing, but another one I'm quite pleased with, and another new event for, or one of the new events for 2026. And of course we've got a short version of that one, so let me show you that one just quickly. So this is where I'm winging it now. So it doesn't do the southern sort of circuit, it does all the north bit. So it's sort of, rather than doing the loop and coming down here, that's the bit you lose on the short course. It takes you straight onto the north, or the northern part of the route, and that comes out at a nice 55 kilometres. So you're looking about just over 30 miles on that. So once I've done the recce for the main route, the short route will be recce'd as well. So yeah, quite pleased with that one. It's an area that I've sort of had on my radar for quite a while, so I'm really pleased that we've got one of those in the calendar for 2026. Right, next is what was a new route this year, which is Ironbridge Gorges, and that I was a bit nervous about that because Ironbridge had been on my radar for quite a while. I mean, that route was 2 years in the making really, until I got my arse into gear and actually went and did a recce. But I have got a bit of a tweak for this year, and I'm reasonably confident it's going to be even better than this year. So let me jump straight into the route. I'll give you the date. So that's in August. That's on Sunday, August the 23rd. It's on a Sunday because there was a park run this year, so that reminded me to change it. So it's on a Sunday this year, Sunday, August 23rd. And then this one starts in the same place. It starts at the country park. Hopefully this path, which is up for being closed, will remain open. I'll keep an eye on that, but we'll just for now assume that it is. It gets us to Hampton Low, round the back of Chelmarsh Reservoir, and then we get all the way up into Bridgnorth, and then we finally get onto the best bit, which is the spine of the route, which takes us up towards Telford and Coalbrookdale and Ironbridge, etc. So all this is what it was this year, apart from this bit here. So this year we basically cut straight across there. So what I've found is this bit here just looks absolutely superb gravel. I mean, an absolute dynamite find. But I've got to ride it and check it. But on paper it looks really, really good. So we've got this little extra loop here. The rest of it coming back down and then back down the spine into Bridgnorth, back into the woods as we did, and then the finish in Alverley currently remains the same, but I am looking, or I have got to go and look at a little tweak which might see us finish on this path here. But I've got a mate that lives in Alverley, so I might go and get him to check it for me. But effectively it's 95%, 99% of what it was this year, but we've got this little extra loop on the top, which I'm quite excited about. So that's that one. And likewise for the short course of that one, it's got the loop at the top, and that's completely the wrong route. Is it the wrong route? No, that's a short course. Sorry, I thought that looked like the original route that did. So the short course starts and finishes in Bridgnorth. So you've got options there. So because you're starting and finishing in Bridgnorth, you can do the short course, which is this one, or you can do the super short course, which effectively, once you get back to Bridgnorth, you don't do this sort of final loop really. But you're straight onto the Route 45 National Cycle Route on the disused railway. It cuts out the bit around Broseley. You do the new loop, and then it's straight back to Bridgnorth, and then you've got this optional loop out to Chelmarsh Reservoir, which picks up some of the trails which take you back into Bridgnorth on the original route, and that one's coming in at a nice 50k. All good. So next one, another interlude. So now I'm going to show you the second new goat route for next year. I've called it Forest to Forge, which I'll explain in a second, but let me bring it up first. So this one, another monster route. This is an amalgamation of where we're riding and Ironbridge Gorges. So it's those two routes basically slapped together. So the benefit of this one is it's pretty much 100, well, it is bang on 100 miles long. It's 2,000 metres of climbing, and you've got a summit finish. So it ticks quite a lot of boxes, this one, in terms of a day out. And again, really, really worthy of a goat route. So if you want to have a go, download it, do it, submit your ride via my website, and then you'll get onto that that wall of fame that I was talking about earlier. So that's the second new goat route for next year. And the reason why it's called Forest to Forge is obviously it goes through the Wye Forest and then takes you up to Ironbridge, which is the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution, I understand. So, you know, ironworks and forging, this, that and the other, it just kind of rhymed. Shit name really, but that's all I could come up with at the time. So Forest to Forge is the name of that one. Right, next one, another route from Ed. I haven't touched this one. This is the Brampton Valley Bash down in Northampton sort of way, Market Harbour. I haven't touched this because selfishly I want to ride it, because I didn't get to ride it this year because I was ill. So unless Ed comes up with something unique, it's a route of its own. It hasn't got a short course, it literally as is from this year. For the people that did ride it, I did get some quite positive feedback, and obviously Ed does a lot of gravel riding, so I trust him that it's a good route as well. So fingers crossed I won't be ill this year, I'll get to ride it. But that one is on Sunday, September the 20th. That one, no short course on that one. Right, 2 more to go. 3 routes, 2 events. So another new event, which was 2025, which I've tweaked based on riding it this year, for the better I think, is the Broadway Grinder. So this is a one for the sort of climbers amongst us, I guess, much in the same vein as the Winchcombe, what do I call it, Winchcombe, what's it called? The Winchcombe Wanderer. Earlier in the season, this is sort of bookend the end of the season with quite a climby one. Now the issue this year was, in my opinion, the climb up Breedon Hill was great, but it's quite technical, and the last climb out of Laverton was utterly ridiculous, to be honest. So I've took that out. So the differences this year are, you're starting Broadway, you're doing what we did this year, takes you down to Hales, back up to Farmcote on the Cotswold Way, and then you do a transitional sector over to Broad Beckford near Breedon Hill, but it takes a different route. So rather than following sort of this path, we're now taking this path, which is a lot less technical effectively, and then it follows the sort of edge at the top, circumference of the sort of top past the hill fort. Great views, and if you saw my pictures for this one this year, superb views, and then it comes back over to Laverton, and then rather than going up this, what was a ridiculous climb, it now takes a path over to Buckland, and we climb Buckland again, and then that brings us back across to Snows Hill, and then you've got your downhill finish into Broadway. So really pleased with that one. It was a really good day out, that was, really enjoyed it. Claire, and Neil and I can't remember the names, so I apologise. But yeah, it was a really good day out, that one, so I recommend that one. That's got a short course as well. So the short course of that one, just quickly throw that in front of you. So it doesn't do breeding hill, this one. So you've got the first bit, you've got the bit that drops down to Howes Abbey, it climbs back up, drops down to Stanway, rather than going over to breeding hill this way. It just literally turns right and he's straight to Laverton and Buckland, do the climb again and then drop down to Broadway. And that gives you a route of 45k. So it's about 27, 28 miles. And then that brings us to the last event of the year on the calendar. That's the National Forest Explorer. So what I've done here, because it got changed this year because of the weather, Storm Claudia, and superb reroute, by the way, Chris. So much positive feedback, and some of those trails were absolutely superb. And as you said, there was a bit of tarmac, but I don't think it made much difference. I think everybody kind of were grateful for that because it was so muddy in places, and it gave us a bit of respite. So what I've done this year, or for next year, is basically keep the route that we should have done this year. So obviously it's based at Hicks Lodge, and it takes us basically the reverse way. The first part is the reverse way that the National Forest Explorer ended a couple of weeks ago. So you might recognise this sort of byway here, Queen Elizabeth Wood, etc. Where we're going, Heather, Sense Valley, etc. But yeah, really just love it. Hopefully there's no police incident on the canal, which is here, and then we're back up to Conkers and back into Hicks Lodge via Moira around the back of the lake. It's such a good area to ride, and I think I've said this already, that I'm so happy with the routes. I'm really pleased with what Chris comes up with, that they'll just for eternity they will bookend the Gravelton events calendar. So we'll start and finish the season with an event at Hicks Lodge with a cafe, the parking. It's just great. It's a really nice social way to start the season, end the season, and that's it. So that's the 2026 calendar. So the National Forest Explorers in November again on the 15th. It remains unchanged for this year, but we didn't get to ride that route this year. So next year it'll be the route that we should have ridden, and that's it. So what am I going to do now? So I'm going to end this stream. I'm not going to take up any more of your time than I need to. I want to thank you all for joining me. If you've tuned in, if you're watching this retrospectively, again, thank you. Thank you for all the support and the feedback that you've all given me over the past 12 months. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make all of the files available. That's the files in the GPS folder, so you can download them and start putting them into your software, and you can dig into the detail yourself. I'll make the calendar live on my website, and that'll probably be it for tonight. And then tomorrow I will update the Gravelton events sort of homepage, put some Facebook events on for the events, and then maybe tomorrow or the day after, the goat route stuff, I'll add that onto the goat route page, and that's it. So just before I go, see if there's any questions on a monitor up there. Evening. 26th of July is a Sunday. That's one question I've got. Don't know. Let's have a look. 26th of July. It is a Sunday. So who asked that question? Robert Crane. Yes, it is a Sunday. So I apologise if I wasn't that clear. But other than that, I think we're done. If you've got any questions about the routes, anything that I do, or you want to submit a route, or you've got an idea, I'm the most accessible person in the world. The worst I can say is no. So just reach out. I love talking about it. I love doing it. It's been great this year, and hopefully next year will be a bumper. But yeah, the one I'm really excited about is the Weekender. So without further ado, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you for tuning in. I'm sorry if it's not being very professional. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not a streamer. and this is literally the only YouTube video in the world that will say don't bother liking and subscribing, because I haven't got a channel. And I won't be, this is just a platform just to allow me to do this, so there's no need to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. But other than that, thank you very much. I'm going to sort of fade myself out and then say goodbye. Adios people, see you on the trails.